The duel was decided in a single breath, but what if the blade fell the other way? What if Obi-Wan Kenobi never rose again? For 8 seconds, destiny shifts. A scream swallowed by humming plasma. A Jedi cut down before his time. A Sith standing tall, crimson eyes burning with victory. And in that instant, the galaxy itself fractures into a shadow that was never meant to be. This is not the tale you know. This is not the history told in the archives of the Jedi Temple, nor in the whispers of Rebel legends. This is the secret timeline, buried, forbidden, dangerous. A galaxy where the Chosen One is left without his brother, where Master's dying wish turns to silence, and where the Sith ascend without challenge. In this fractured reality, Maul does not vanish into exile. He becomes something more. The fate of Anakin Skywalker bends, the Republic trembles, and the balance of the Force tilts into darkness long before its time. What if one of the most iconic duels in Star Wars history ended differently? Imagine the energy-filled plasma doors sealing off escape routes, sparks flying from lightsabers clashing, and the tension at its absolute peak. Now, picture this. Instead of Obi-Wan Kenobi outmaneuvering Darth Maul, the young Jedi is struck down. The fiery rage in Maul's eyes is rewarded with victory, and the fate of the galaxy tilts in an entirely new direction. This single moment, this single swing of a blade, would ripple through every corner of the Star Wars saga. The Duel of the Fates wasn't just another lightsaber fight. It was a turning point that decided who would guide Anakin Skywalker into his destiny. With Obi-Wan gone, the Jedi Order loses more than a young knight. It loses one of its most loyal defenders, the man who would later mentor Luke Skywalker and play a crucial role in resisting the Empire. Maul's victory wouldn't simply be personal revenge against the Jedi. It would be a tectonic shift in galactic history. Think about the battlefield itself. Obi-Wan, trapped, furious, desperate, manages in canon to use his rage and Jedi discipline to cut Maul in half. But in this alternate story, his youthful impatience works against him. Maul, the more seasoned warrior, strikes fast and precise. Obi-Wan's body collapses, Qui-Gon's fallen lightsaber clatters uselessly to the floor, and the silence afterward is deafening. Anakin, still a boy, would never know the mentor who believed so deeply in him. And let's not forget Qui-Gon Jinn. Already mortally wounded, Qui-Gon's death would remain unchanged, but his final moments would carry more despair. Instead of passing responsibility to Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon's wish for Anakin's training would be left in the hands of the Jedi Council, a group far less willing to embrace the boy's unorthodox potential. Without Obi-Wan's loyalty and determination to honor his master's dying request, Anakin's path becomes much more uncertain and far darker. Maul's triumph also sends a chilling message to the galaxy. The Sith are not extinct, and their warriors are not to be underestimated. Sidious would see his apprentice rise to new heights of confidence, perhaps even ambition. Unlike the broken, humiliated Maul we later see in canon, this Maul would become a symbol of Sith dominance, a lethal enforcer who just destroyed one of the Jedi's rising stars. The ripple effects would be immediate and catastrophic, both for the Jedi Order and the Republic itself. So here's the real question. If Obi-Wan Kenobi is cut down in that power reactor chamber, does the galaxy even stand a chance against the darkness rising? If Obi-Wan Kenobi falls to Darth Maul on Naboo, one of the biggest consequences is the shattered bond between Qui-Gon Jinn's dying wish and Anakin Skywalker's destiny. In canon, Obi-Wan swears to train Anakin as his master's final request, even going against the doubts of the Jedi Council. But in this alternate story, that promise dies with him. Picture Qui-Gon's last breath. He looks to a student who is no longer there. Obi-Wan, the loyal apprentice who was meant to carry his legacy forward, has been struck down. In those moments, Qui-Gon's belief in Anakin, the chosen one who could bring balance to the Force, would fall into the hands of the very council that doubted the boy from the start. Mace Windu, Yoda, and the other masters might still reluctantly agree to train Anakin. But without Obi-Wan's unwavering commitment, the boy's path would be far more fragile. Why does this matter? Because Obi-Wan wasn't just a teacher. He was a steady anchor for Anakin. Their bond was built on loyalty, brotherhood, and eventually deep mutual respect. Obi-Wan became the calm to Anakin's storm. The one person who understood his struggles while still holding him accountable. Without him, who steps into that role? Would another Jedi, perhaps Coutamundi, Plo Koon, or even Mace Windu, train the boy? And if so, would their rigid, traditional methods only push Anakin further toward rebellion? Let's not forget that Anakin was already walking a tightrope. He was a boy ripped from his mother, told he was too old to train, and burdened with the crushing weight of being the chosen one. Obi-Wan, for all his faults, gave Anakin compassion and a sense of brotherhood. Remove that, and you leave Anakin more isolated than ever. Imagine him growing up within the Jedi Temple, surrounded by skepticism, whispers, and a council that never truly trusted him. That isolation could have been the perfect fuel for Palpatine to step in much earlier. And what about Qui-Gon's legacy? He was the Jedi who believed most strongly in following the living force, not the rigid dogma of the Council. In canon, his ideas lived on through Obi-Wan and later through Anakin and Luke. But if his apprentice is gone, Qui-Gon's philosophy risks being buried with him. Without that influence, the Jedi remain more entrenched in tradition, less open to change, and perhaps even less prepared for the rise of Sith. The result? A young Anakin, more alone, more vulnerable, and more easily swayed by Palpatine's manipulations. Without Obi-Wan's brotherly love to counterbalance the Chancellor's fatherly charm, Anakin's fall to the dark side might not only be inevitable, it might happen much sooner. So here's the haunting thought. Without Obi-Wan to fight for him, does Anakin Skywalker ever truly stand a chance? Now let's shift our focus to the other side of the duel, the Sith. With Obi-Wan gone and Maul victorious, the galaxy wouldn't just see the Jedi weakened. It would also see Darth Sidious's apprentice standing tall, undefeated, and hungrier than ever. And that changes everything about the Sith's trajectory. In canon, Maul's failure on Naboo is the very thing that makes Sidious begin searching for a new apprentice. Enter Count Dooku and later Darth Vader. But in this alternate timeline, there's no need for replacement. Maul is not humiliated, broken, or discarded. Instead, he becomes the Sith's golden weapon, proof that their shadowy return is more than just whispers. A Sith warrior who not only killed a Jedi Master, but also cut down a rising star like Obi-Wan Kenobi would instantly cement fear across the galaxy. But here's where it gets even more intriguing. How does Sidious react to a victorious Maul? We know Palpatine always plays the long game, manipulating apprentices until they outlive their usefulness. In this reality, Maul's power and confidence would surge. No longer a secretive assassin lurking in the shadows, he would be celebrated, at least in the Sith sense, as the visible spear of their resurgence. That could either make Sidious proud or deeply uneasy. Because Maul isn't like Dooku, who willingly played the political puppet. Maul is raw fury, a creature of combat, someone who thrives in the chaos of battle rather than the chessboard of galactic politics. The question becomes, would Maul stay loyal as Sidious's apprentice, or would victory plant the seeds of ambition? After all, Sith rule is built on betrayal. If Maul felt powerful enough, could he eventually turn his eyes towards Sidious's throne? This is where things could get explosive. Imagine Maul not hiding in exile, but openly hunting Jedi across the galaxy at Sidious's command. He could have been unleashed during the Clone Wars as the Republic's ultimate nightmare, cutting down Jedi generals on the battlefield instead of wasting away in bitterness. His reputation would grow, and with every victory, his influence might rival even his master's. And then comes the wild card, Anakin. Palpatine saw Anakin as the perfect apprentice, powerful, impulsive, and emotionally vulnerable. But if Maul had never fallen, would there even be room for Anakin to become Darth Vader? Or would Palpatine be forced to choose between his seasoned warrior and his chosen one project? That tension could lead to a clash between Maul and Anakin himself. each vying for Sidious's approval, or Maul perhaps trying to eliminate Anakin before he could become a threat. In other words, Obi-Wan's death doesn't just change the Jedi's path. It creates a fork in the Sith's destiny too. Does Maul remain the loyal apprentice, or does his hunger for dominance rewrite even Palpatine's carefully laid plans? If Obi-Wan Kenobi dies on Naboo, the ripple effect spreads far beyond Anakin or Maul. It reshapes the entire fabric of the Star Wars galaxy. Why? Because Kenobi's legacy is far more than just surviving duels. He is the quiet thread that connects multiple generations of heroes and holds back the tide of darkness, often when all hope seems lost. Without him, the galaxy loses its unsung protector. Let's start with the Clone Wars. In canon, Obi-Wan becomes one of the Republic's greatest generals. His leadership inspires loyalty, his diplomacy wins allies, and his courage on the battlefield saves countless lives. More importantly, he is one of the few Jedi who balances the warrior role with the wisdom of a true Jedi. Without him, the Republic loses that steady hand. The war still rages, but victories that hinged on Obi-Wan's skill, like retaking Mandalore or holding the line against General Grievous, would be far less certain. The Republic might crumble faster, leaving the Sith with an even smoother path to dominance. Then there's the personal side of the saga. Kenobi isn't just a warrior. He's a mentor, a brother, and eventually a father figure. He's the one who stands by Anakin when others doubt him. He's the one who later risks everything to protect Luke, the galaxy's last hope. Without Obi-Wan, who carries these torches? Anakin, left without his anchor, might fall to the dark side even earlier, with no one close enough to pull him back. And Luke, without Kenobi to introduce him to the Force, he may never leave Tatooine at all. The rebellion could lose its symbol of hope before it ever begins. But Kenobi's absence isn't just about individual characters. It's about the spirit he represents. Obi-Wan embodies resilience. He endures betrayal, loss, and exile, yet he never gives up. His survival across eras, facing Maul, Anakin, and even the Empire, proves that one person's determination can tilt the balance of history. Remove him, and you remove that thread of continuity. The galaxy becomes darker, more fragile, and less resistant to the iron grip of the Sith. Consider also the Mandalorian connection. Obi-Wan's relationship with Duchess Satine shaped not only his own life, but the fate of Mandalore itself. Without him, Mandalore's story might unfold very differently, perhaps even falling fully under Maul's control without opposition. That alone could shift galactic politics, strengthening the Sith's hold. The bigger picture is chilling. Without Kenobi, the Jedi lose one of their greatest defenders, the Republic loses a stabilizing force, and the Rebellion loses its spark. The galaxy's fight against tyranny is weakened at every turn. So here's the haunting realization. Obi-Wan's survival wasn't just luck, it was destiny. Take him out of the story, and the galaxy may never find its way back to the light. So far, we've seen how Obi-Wan's death would reshape Anakin's future, empower Darth Maul, and erase the Kenobi legacy. But when you put all these threads together, the alternate timeline paints a very different Star Wars saga. One with a balance of power tips much earlier and much harder toward the Sith. Think about it. The Clone Wars might still erupt, but without Obi-Wan's leadership, the Republic struggles. Maul becomes the Sith's public face, carving through Jedi across the galaxy. Anakin, without a brotherly guide, grows more unstable and more vulnerable to Palpatine's manipulations. Instead of being pulled between light and dark over years, his fall could accelerate, possibly even before the Clone Wars truly begin. Imagine a teenage Anakin, lured into Palpatine's orbit, trained not as Vader disciple, but as a young Sith prodigy beside Maul. The Jedi Order will be crushed from two sides, never knowing what hit them. And what are the future heroes? Luke Skywalker's entire journey begins with Obi-Wan pulling him out of obscurity on Tatooine. Without Kenobi surviving into exile, Luke never learns the ways of the Force. The rebellion still rises, but without a Jedi Knight to inspire it, victory against the Empire looks grim. Leia might still lead the fight politically, but the mythic element, the Force, the lightsaber, the idea of a new hope, dies with Obi-Wan. The original trilogy, as we know it, might never unfold. Meanwhile, Maul's arc transforms from tragedy to dominance. Instead of a broken exile chasing shadows, he becomes either Sidious's unstoppable enforcer or his ultimate rival. The Sith rule by two, but they always end in betrayal. Sooner or later, Maul would clash with Palpatine or Anakin, sparking a brutal Sith civil war. The galaxy's fate could come down not to Jedi versus Sith, but Sith versus Sith. And with the Jedi diminished, who would be left to pick up the pieces? What's fascinating about this alternate reality is how fragile the Star Wars saga truly is. One duel, one life cut short, and everything changes. The balance of the Force hinges not just on prophecies or chosen ones, but on individual choices and moments of survival. Obi-Wan's victory wasn't just a personal triumph. It was the fulcrum on which the entire galaxy's destiny rested. So, in the end, this what if reminds us of something powerful. Star Wars is as much about fate as it is about hope. Obi-Wan's survival gave the galaxy a fighting chance. His death would have doomed it to darkness far sooner, leaving us with a saga where light might never return.